me, we're ready.
Very good. I'm getting a message on my side.
All right, just one more. Good to go.
Great. Good evening. Welcome to the April 6th meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. This open meeting of the Community Preservation Committee, which I will call CPC, is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law March 29, 2023. All members of the CPC are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The act allows the CPC to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Or by the way, if you just search it on YouTube, it comes up, and usually the live meeting is the first one you see. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. I will now confirm members who are present. If you could respond in the affirmative when I call your name. Todd Helwig.
Here.
Jeff Leland.
Here.
Peter Martin.
Here.
Andy Dowd.
Here.
Millie Milton.
Here.
Andy Clark.
Here.
And Sean Durkin via phone.
I'm here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Also, we are joined by staff member Lori Connors.
Here.
And our guest for tonight is Historic District Commission Chair Norm Corbin.
Here.
You are the chair, right?
Yes.
Good, got that right. Thanks for joining us, Norm. Norm asked to sit in, and it so happens since our member Leslie is on vacation, Norm will be the historic spokesman, so to speak. I think our agenda will go quickly. I appreciate everybody making time on very short notice. I did, however, want to review what I'm going to say at town meeting. I have prepared draft slides, and they're similar in format to what we've done year over year. And as you know, usually our CPA presentations go well. There's usually not much objections, I should say. There's an objective, but there's usually few objections. But you know, things seem more complicated these days. So I wanted to get feedback on what I plan to present, and also check some facts and data with specifically to things like the dog park and the grants and senior center trail and the different costs and so on, so that I have a little more facts. It's a fairly short list of warrant articles. The first few slides are repeats of what I've shown at previous town meeting. First is a reminder, you're seeing it on the screen, of what the CPA is and how it's funded, and the good news that we're over 3 million in state matching since the first state matches were received. And the next slide is again reminders of what our obligations are, that we must spend at least 10%. And we go through what the our estimated revenue and reserves are and what our budget is as per the town accountant, Jason. And the next slide, I'm going to highlight, and I also highlighted this in my presentation to the select board, which I've been trying to update, and it's a good reflection of where we've been using CPA funds. I'm going to go back through the data a little bit and make sure I've got the figures reasonably close, but the graphic representation shows that we have concentrated almost half of our projects in open space and recreation. And they're all really good things and good projects and projects that are going into phase 2. But our percentage to historical has been less, and affordable housing even less than that. And my presenting that is certainly a segue into the fact that we have our first article is going to be the White Cliffs bond payment. This will be the 6th payment, and they've been approved in each of the prior 5 town meetings. There has been very little discussion on the town meeting floor in prior years. And usually I've really been scrambling for what notes even to put up there, since we had not made a significant amount of progress until the last couple of years.
It
So,
looks like you got an extra 6 there on the first bullet point.
yeah, thank you. I
Hmm.
will edit in the background. Appreciate that, Peter. I'm going to tell you guys what I want to highlight, since we have the floor during this article to talk about White Cliffs, and it's really not brought up at any other point in town meeting this year. My goal is to emphasize that the purchase of White Cliffs has been affordable, which is what we presented to the town at the 2016 town meeting, that we could afford it through CPA. And in fact, the bond payment has only been on average about 25% of our yearly new revenue. And so I believe it has been affordable. And we will have paid the bond in the next 4 bond payments, and it will be affordable again with CPA revenue. And I wonder if it's appropriate to point out as an update, since prior year updates have been reuse committee is meeting, consultants on board, new ideas will come, proposals will come. And during this past year, we have had proposals come in through the White Cliffs Committee to the town. And as is no secret, the recommended proposal was from Metro West Collaborative. And their proposal very much speaks to the CPA goals that would be met should their proposal be adopted. And it also asks for the town's portion of just $800,000 compared to some, 24 million that they're committing. And I think it's fair to point out that that amount is very affordable as well through the reserves that we already have. So I'm looking for, this is the primary reason for our meeting at all tonight, I think, which is I'm looking for feedback around how much to say, how little to say, and where we stand as a committee on supporting this process of reviewing the proposal that we have and supporting White Cliffs in general, which of course we did when we brought it to the town in 2016. So I'd like to open the floor. And first of all, any factual corrections? Peter brought up the first typo. And second of all, please chime in with your thoughts on this approach.
So John, is the pitch that we've been investing the money through the bond payments to make possible a significant increase in the amount of affordable housing in the town? Is that really basically the thrust of what you want to say?
I wouldn't call it the thrust, but it's certainly a tentacle. It so happens that the best proposal received by the town is a project to restore the mansion, but create significant housing as a result. And it just so happens that 1/3 of CPA's original creation and goal is affordable housing. So we as a committee have supported affordable housing. But the first part of it, Peter, is just to reemphasize the affordability of the original purchase.
Hmm.
Per se.
In light of the money that they're putting in. Sorry, you're saying.
In prelude to and in addition to, there has been, and I have heard specific comments with regard to the original warrant article in 2016. And some have asked me, what's the role of the CPC, and did we fulfill our role, and thoughts to that effect. And I kind of went back actually to look at some notes on how it came to be, and reminding myself on how it came to be that we presented this to the town, and what the presentation was on that night. You know, I certainly remember it vividly, but the main points that night were, this was at an inflection point. It was clear that the owner was going to demolish it. So it was save it or demolish it. And if we save it, how do we pay for it? And we presented that it was affordable through CPA, through the process of bonding on future CPA revenue. And we have met that commitment. And in fact, it's come true, and it's not limiting our ability to use CPA for other projects. Obviously, we've accomplished a lot in town with the CPA projects. You know, that's evident. So that's really what I want to lead in with.
Yeah, I was just thinking of this discussion in light of the pie chart and how we can, at least directly or indirectly, increase the pie slice for affordable housing.
Well, you're very much making the connection.
Yeah, I think that would be worth doing, because you've set it up. You know, obviously we've done half for recreation and open space. People may be saying, well, we have a real affordable housing problem in town. What are you doing about it? And we could say, this is part of it.
Excellent point, and you're exactly on target with the flow that I was looking for, and the segue that I was looking for, that I believe is important to bring out. And what I don't say in the slide that I think I want to is how closely this proposal mirrors the master plan, and specifically downtown enhancement within the master plan. It checks boxes there, which is something the town and town boards have supported. So I feel like, you know, it's not our job as a committee to be the lead spokespeople by any means, but because we proposed it to the town in the first place and pitched that CPA could support it, I do feel it's appropriate that we express our support for how the project meets CPA goals. Isn't that fair to say?
Absolutely.
I think, John, you you have a lot of clout, let's call it, and your opinion and your presentation carries weight within the community. So, you know, even if you're not hyping, you know, getting into the details of the presentation, you know, language like we're excited, this is, you know, there's action, there's tangible action now on this project that has, that really is, highlighting some of the, two of the three pillars of the CPC, that kind of language where you're obviously expressing your, I guess at least your agreement with the moving forward on stuff, without getting into the weeds of, because people are going to try to bring up the proposal in their opposition to this thing. So people are going to kind of step up here and say, oh, this and that about, well, that proposal's no good. And you're like, well, we're just voting on the bond payment right here. but the update is that we finally have tangible action on this asset that everyone in the town agrees is one of the most, if not the most significant, one of the most significant historical, structures in place, and also beautification of downtown, so it meets I think you're saying it meets our goals, strongly emphasizing how it meets the goals of the CPC, which is the funding mechanism, is obviously, and that we have statutory obligations for this development to meet our goals. It has to align with the CPC goal because it was purchased with CPC money. That kind of thing is intangible endorsement, at least on keeping the process alive, things like that, without getting dragged into the discussion of the proposal.
I think somewhat to your point, Andrew, there is a risk that this will go down that path and that people will jump on that portion of it and maybe get confused about what they're voting for. So there could be a lot of questions on this based on that. So I just think that's something to be aware of.
No,
There's
I
no-
expect a million people. I expect not a million, but I expect people to be, even though it's not up for vote here in any way on the town meeting, they're seeking venues for venting, and so there will be there are going to be ways that people are going to be here using this opportunity to try to malign the project or do whatever on the project, or even, like you said, misconstrue that this is somehow an endorsement of the project beyond just paying for the thing that we've already committed for.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I might have a comment, John.
Norm, by all means.
I think I'd prefer if this was 2 slides. One slide is Article 30. The next slide is just an update, just a basic update that we have a proposal that's being evaluated. And I don't remember the date exactly. I think it's May 8th is the next time it'll be addressed at the Board of Selectmen meeting. You may want to just stop it at that point.
I'm not going to mention that because I don't know that that'll happen. Specific dates.
Mhm.
I think if
John, it
yes.
is on the Board of Selectmen agenda for May 8th.
Okay. Well, I still don't think I would speak specifically to the date so much as to say something to the effect of it's coming up for further review, and we support that review. I know what you're trying to say, Norm. I mean
And
that, and Millie spoke to the point. Bringing up these points opens up the possibility that we'll get questions from the floor, and we'll have a discussion. But I think that could be a good thing.
the only other thing I would recommend is some of the words you're using. We don't want to call it the best proposal. We want to be consistent with what we voted on at the White Cliffs Committee. We want to say it's most advantageous to the town. It's just a play with words, but it's for continuity for what we agreed to move forward to the Board of Selectmen. It's most advantageous to the town. And that includes, if you ever look at the RFP, it includes it's advantageous financially. It's advantageous because it's near the center of town. It's advantageous because it's affordable housing. It's advantageous because they're doing, there's a whole bunch of lists, but I think that's a better terminology than just say the best, because then it implies that it was a personal opinion.
There's nothing in the slide that expresses my opinion it's the best solution. I'm not sure what you're reading.
No, this is not what you were on your slide. It's just things you were, when you were going through you're talking through it. So my recommendation is to put a second slide in that just talks about the status. And if you talk about the status, I think the best to say it's most advantageous to the town, rather than saying it's the best proposal.
I understand you now.
Okay.
I do agree with the 2 slides. I think that helps sort of divide it for people.
Good thought. So that, the heading maybe is the same because I think for the last 5 years, this slide has been up basically. The topic being preservation of White Cliffs, but all we're doing is paying the bond. And there really wasn't much discussion, so we could do a page 2. And I'm certainly in agreement with that.
Yeah, that'll certainly separate out the part of the discussion where you are in fact advocating for Article 30 on behalf of the CPC. But the second slide is simply a point of information and is not within the purview of the CPC to take really a position on, right?
Well, we can take a position.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is done. I'm going to specifically ask tonight that we take a position and we submit a letter into the select board in favor of this proposal. And I propose that we do that because we've already invested, the $2 million into this project. If this project, if this proposal, which is the only one that we got that had any chance of actually working, our contribution going forward would be approximately 800,000. If this one goes away and we have to do it on our own, the only other option is pay, the $10 million in restoration costs and have no end user, which I don't see us paying for. I don't see the town paying for. And then the other option is having the building demolished at the end of this. And I can tell you that Stuart at the CPA Coalition called me out of the blue and said that this project was on his watch list as, projects of special particular concern to the coalition because of the risk of we spent CPA money on this and then having the building not exist in 3 years.
Not to mention the legal ramifications that you would have to do to get out of the obligation of keeping it restored once you've used CPA funds to do so. So I would say personally, if I'm the one speaking, that I would stop short of presenting the case as you did to the committee, Todd, because you're speaking to the reasons why it's good to support it, and furthermore, we started speaking about the reasons why it's consistent with CPA goals. So we'll carry that forward, but I would want to emphasize those things: how it meets CPA goals, how it meets town master plan goals, how it's much more affordable to the town. And maybe I can do that a little more specifically than just saying that CPA reserves covers it. By the way, $800,000 of CPA reserves that we already have is a lot less than the 10 million we would have to spend, something to that effect. But
Yeah, I'm not looking for you to get up there and make the pitch, right, that I just made. I don't think, I'm welcome to have you do it, but I don't think that's what you need to do.
yeah, I don't want to go that far. And I think that's
right.
a little bit, I
I
think that would be inappropriate.
Other stakeholders in the building have submitted letters of support
Yes.
for their own reasons. And I would like us to do that as well. And then all you would have to do at town meeting, if you chose, was to say that the CPC took a vote and supported it, see our letter. And then it's up to the select board.
Yeah, because
I like
I
your
feel
idea.
that if you get in, especially if you're opening, you go through the slide of, hey, this is the progress. And if it starts too much of the presentation, then you're going to open it up for everyone to weigh in on the presentation, and it's not the appropriate venue or moment for that. And I don't even know if you're just giving an update, if you're even, are you obligated at that point? It's not part of the, not part of the vote, but I guess, I don't know the parliamentary rules on the situation. But, or if people want to try it at that point in time, I mean, that would be up to the moderator to, kind of shut down that conversation or allow it or whatever. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, you're speaking, I mean, the moderator is giving you a certain amount of leash to speak to the article. And this article, is about the bond payment approval. So
Yeah,
with respect to the moderator, even though he gives a pretty long leash, veering too far into the presentation of something that's not on the warrant is not appropriate. But
yeah, and
Speaking
everyone
to-
else is gonna I don't think you're gonna do it. I think everyone else is gonna wanna, or there might be people here that are gonna wanna start the process of whatever, either pro or con, discussing this thing out of the context of the town meeting article,
well, and somebody or somebody's will get up and comment for sure. So
Yeah.
once that door's open, I think, as I usually do, it's to nod and answer a technical question that if we have the information from our committee to answer it, but otherwise, you let people blow off a little steam or express a thought and then pass over it. And here again, I think the moderator would limit how long that would go on when the article is not debating that question. The article is not presenting that question.
Is it possible, John, that you have the Article 30 with just the information on the 188,000 and we vote on that? And after we vote on that, then give the update?
That would really be inappropriate, because then we'd be moving on to the next article. And
Okay.
so it's more like when at the beginning of the first article, which I have to read, the moderator allows you an introduction, and he has every year. And so I would include the preliminary slides in that introduction, and including the pie chart about where we've gone so far. And that's why that connection works to the fact that the further support of the White Cliffs restoration and even the affordable housing contingent portion of it supports our goals. And that would be the connection we can make and to express our support for it. If in fact we express that support here tonight and in a letter, that can be reiterated. But I really don't think I can go much farther than that. Do you understand?
Yeah, I think there's a reason to give an update for sure. The challenge will be keeping this under control.
Yeah, the update.
Moderator's responsibility.
Right. If you look back at the last couple of town meetings, at the time of presenting this article, there's a brief update. There's a bullet or two, and I basically have described where we were in the process. And there were no, that I recall, there were no significant questions or further discussion of it. And given the other articles that we had for CPA in those years, this one went pretty quickly. I'm pleased that it's the first one in the list, so we get to present it at the top of our slate, if you will. And I think we can give the update through a couple of bullets. We can do it on another page just as easily. Just be page 2 with the same heading. But I think we got to keep it in the context of, continued support for White Cliffs, which you do need to do to vote for the bond. We have to get the people to
Joe.
vote for it. And hopefully they will.
John, I agree completely with, the way you're planning on doing that. I think that's the appropriate way to handle it. Give the update, and then once that's done, that we're not voting on anything there. You're simply giving an update on projects. And then when you take up the first article and read that motion, that's when, if there are questions related to your update, at that point, the moderator can control that based on the fact that it may not be relevant to the article we're voting on, and at least limit some debate. But I think what you're planning to do is perfect.
Yeah, remember that when when the article comes up and I come up to present, this would be on the background screen during the reading of the article, and then the moderator gives his permission, if you will, to present. And so that's our time to talk. They can easily click to a second slide, no problem. But it can't be too elaborate in time.
And John, I'll just add one more thing from the Housing Authority. Obviously, you're aware that we had submitted a letter of support for the project. We just met as a board last evening, and at every meeting we talk about the need for affordable housing and the extremely long, waiting lists that folks have to try to get through to obtain housing. So there is such a great need, and that potential project definitely would help us meet some of that need.
Absolutely, and we have an opportunity to reinforce that again when the article comes up for the Affordable Housing Reserve. And again, historically, we have emphasized the continued need, and we'll do so again. Could the committee help with a couple more bullets or text to that effect? Because this, again, what you're looking at is a draft of, I really just quickly wrote out kind of where I wanted to go, and did not give it much more thought yet today.
John, maybe I would suggest, if you're doing an update, just providing a little bit more detail about the number of units that would be created, which is 52. 52 units of affordable housing.
Very good.
And there is also, I believe, their proposed investment in upgrading the White Cliffs Mansion and doing their affordable housing development. I believe it's $24 million investment. So that might be something helpful to add.
Also very good.
Do you want to take a whack at drafting that additional slide and then circulate it to the committee, and we can comment offline in the next couple of days?
We could, or we could whack it out right now. It's not all that complex. I'm writing out the bullet right now of what would include the creating of 52 affordable housing units, and that Metro West proposes a $24 million investment to restore the mansion and also create 52 units. Lori, by the way, I emailed you the PowerPoint original while we were talking 15 minutes ago or so. If you had the wherewithal, you could put that up if you wanted to.
Oh, okay. One other thing, John, might be to mention that the first floor of the White Cliffs Mansion, they're proposing to restore fully. and utilize it for community events.
First floor fully restored for community events.
Yeah, I see it now.
It is very possible, John, that a lot of the audience will not know anything about the Metro West proposal, so this could be their first exposure. That's kind of just the way it is.
Yep, that's a good point. You're right. So getting the high points out is not a bad thing.
Yeah, though I think to the extent you go into more detail about the proposal, it sounds more like you're endorsing the proposal. So I would be careful about that.
Why does he have to be careful?
If I endorse it and the committee endorses it, we can
Well,
say that.
What
but,
you're appearing before town meeting to do is not to endorse that project. You're advocating on behalf of Article 30.
Yeah, I think that should be separate.
Okay.
But that
Before this,
article-
we made a connection that the consistent with our goals in CPA, we made a connection that the proposed project would fulfill those, and we agreed that was a good connection.
Mhm.
And we also discussed taking it a whole lot further and trying to advocate is not what we want to do, but making that connection and being more specific on the proposal, even if it's all in one bullet, is okay, I think. And
Well-
then if we were to, if in the course of this meeting, we formalize our support for the, continuing to explore the proposal at the very least, then I don't think it's wrong to state that, further to what Todd was suggesting.
And I
Yeah, no,
think there should be, sorry, Peter, there should be a distinction between continuing the proposal and because as a committee, we haven't really even discussed the proposal amongst ourselves.
Right.
So I
know,
think that is something we should do if we are going to lend support to it, simply because we
Right.
may each have different understandings of what that proposal actually entails. And
I
we
don't think
haven't
this committee
really-
has had enough discussion of the alternatives to take a position on
Right.
this or the other proposal.
We can talk about it now.
I don't
Sure, but
think I'm really
I
prepared.
would prefer to have
None
a
of
more,
us have gotten the proposal as a committee, full committee. I
You
mean,
mean the Metro West Collaborative proposal?
yeah,
Well, to be formal
Been
about it,
circulated.
they're not, their charter was not to present the proposal to the CPC. And our, technically there's a nuance to this because again, we supported the purchase of the mansion in the first place. And so and we've expressed our support year over year, and obviously we're paying for it with CPA,
right.
but we're not technically called to vote on the proposal. We would only be called on to fund the extra portion they're asking for, should it go to that step. So you mentioned not having a formal presentation of it, but that's never going to happen because it's not they weren't asked to do that, right? They were asked to present it first to the White Cliffs Committee and ultimately to the Board of Selectmen.
Right, but as a committee, we have not even fully discussed it. So if
Sure.
we want to lend support to something, I think we should, as a committee, have the opportunity to ask questions about it. What's your understanding of it? What are the details? So, I
The
think
floor is open
it's-
for that.
it's-
That really was
right,
part of my intent for tonight.
We just spent the last 50 minutes talking about it.
no,
well,
we
that's
didn't.
not
We
the
have not-
proposal. That
No,
is
we're not
definitely not the
talking about the very
proposal.
proposals, Todd.
It's a difference. The proposal's about, 30 pages, if not more, that goes into a lot of detail and a lot of possibilities, but we have
Right.
not discussed it as a committee, and I think that that would be important if we want to be writing a letter of support, that we should have at least discussed it in detail, or at least, with everybody having the same knowledge base or information.
I'm not going to cast a vote tonight on any of the proposals on restoring White Cliffs.
Mhm.
Let me tell you what the Historic District Commission approach was. I have a problem casting a vote to support a proposal that I don't know all the details on. So what we drafted was a recommendation that the Board of Selectmen continue the vetting process, because they, with 3 votes on the Board of Selectmen, they can kill the proposal. That's it. So all I've been focusing my last month to 6 weeks on is to make sure we go through the next step and get it properly voted. So the letter, what we wrote, was clearly to ask the Board of Selectmen to continue vetting the process and not take an early vote to discontinue it. Anyway, so that was the approach we took. And it's because, how do you vote for something that you don't know all the gory details? How do you vote for something that all of the issues haven't been addressed publicly and discussed?
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'd be comfortable with something along those lines.
Fine with me.
I'm in on that.
I would just add the piece that we talked about at the financial boards, that, as John said, we have the money reserve available, that if this project went forward, we have the 800,000. So that should not be a reason for a no. Not a yes, but at least we have the capacity available.
Well, be that as it may, Jeff, if I heard the forming of a consensus to agree or even vote on a position similar to what Norm described the Historic District Commission did, then I would entertain a motion, or someone trying to speak the words of a motion to that effect.
Well, I'd move that the CPC write a letter supporting the ongoing evaluation of the various White Cliffs restoration proposals.
Second.
So that was a motion by Peter, seconded by Millie, was that right?
I just want, you use the plural form of the word proposals, Peter. There's only one proposal that's being vetted. The other ones were not sufficient enough to pursue.
Oh, okay, then thank you. Then friendly amendment, ongoing review of the sort of, shall we say, outstanding proposal, or the proposal currently being considered, or words to that effect.
If you want to use the word outstanding, that's fine with me.
Outstanding in its field, right?
Yes.
Now,
Use the only viable proposal.
Current proposal.
Current, sure.
That's why I was going back to the verbiage that we did from the White Cliffs Committee, which was the most advantageous to the town. And you can take it or leave it, but at least provides some
Well,
continuity.
That's the standard.
That's
Mm.
Right.
Take it or
Right,
leave it.
It's not our assessment, it's the standard that by which that proposal is to be evaluated.
so should we, if we were to vote on this, then how do we execute the letter? Are we going to ask Lori to put words to it?
Lori, would you like me to put words for it?
It's up to you. I can draft something up and circulate it to everybody and get consensus. Just make sure that you respond to me only instead of each other.
Sure.
Is the motion,
Or Todd, if you've got a burning desire to do it.
Well,
then-
it was gonna, whatever I did was gonna be very close to whatever Norm's letter was, right? Because if the historic commission was, that was the point Norm was making, is that's what he thought, what they did, and what I hear us saying is we would do what they did, and so the letter should be similar.
And I
Yeah.
have that letter, so I
Oh.
can,
Could you-
I can
could you-
draft up similar language.
could you read it to this committee?
Can I read it?
Could you read that letter to us?
Give me a minute and I can find it.
Or Norm, if whoever has it?
I
Millie, are
don't
you-
know, Norm, if you
Norm?
have it on hand.
Millie, are you on historic also?
I am.
Yes, yeah, okay.
So lots of files upon files, so
I
just.
know. I
didn't
don't
mean to
know if
put
I
you
can
on the
get my
spot,
fingers
but
on that letter.
If it gives us a template, then I'd be comfortable with that.
I think it's this one. Let me open it up. Yep. So I am going to stop sharing the other, and I'm going to start sharing this. All right. So the Northborough Board of Selectmen. Okay, so the crux of it is this letter is neither an endorsement nor a rejection of the Metro West Collaborative Development Proposal by the Northborough Historic District Commission members. Its purpose is to have the proposal properly vetted. Commission members signed below strongly recommend that the Board of Selectmen agree to an option to purchase for the Metro West Collaborative Development Proposal so that vetting of the proposal can start and community outreach forums can be initiated. Just for a little bit of background information, at the Board of Selectmen meeting that was held in January, there were a number of questions that were, actually, I think it was February, a number of questions that were asked that Metro West does not intend to answer at this time because it requires an investment on their part. Like, for example, a traffic impact analysis. They would need some sort of nod from the Board of Selectmen in order to obtain the funding from their lenders to do preliminary design. So this isn't unusual. So any sort of developer that comes before us, usually they sign a purchase and sale agreement conditional upon obtaining the permits that they are seeking. So they don't go ahead and do their due diligence before having a purchase and sale agreement signed. So that's pretty much what they're asking for. They're asking for the purchase and sale agreement to be signed so that they can do the due diligence to answer the questions. So that's, otherwise it's a huge outlay of money for them with a huge amount of risk. So this isn't anything different than the developers that we see every single day that go through the permitting process with the planning board and the ZBA.
Well, the bottom two paragraphs, for the most part, say what I believe the motion expresses that endorsing. With respect to the author of this letter, I know that it comes from a much greater knowledge of the history and the process of arriving at this proposal coming in and the specific concerns that you have around it. I don't think that this committee would write a letter with that much detail.
Right.
If that's fair to say.
Yep.
How about we simply write a letter saying that we agree with and endorse the approach taken by the commission as reflected in this letter?
Good with that too.
I'm sorry?
I said, I am good with that too.
Fair enough. If I were writing a letter, I wouldn't leave it to question what we're agreeing with. You could simply restate
Mhm.
that we're in favor of the process continuing, correct?
Sure.
So do we want to generate the rough draft of text for Lori, or I don't want to ask you, Lori, to write to do it if it's too much work but
This will take me 5 minutes. I'm happy to write it.
okay.
And then as soon as it's done, I'll email it to all of you. And like I said, if you have any changes, just either email them to me only.
Okay, and
So the motion would be then that we would approve the sending of the letter to be drafted by Lori with editorial comments. With the purpose that we described here of supporting the same proposal that the commission has supported.
okay, is there still a second for the way you just said it?
I don't know.
I mean, if not, I'll make it.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay, so it's a
That way we
motion.
get some flexibility to fiddle with the language after the vote is taken. So
Very good. So we have a revised motion, slightly more clear. And a second by Millie on the first draft and a second by Todd on the second draft. So it's kind of like a third, if you will. And we have discussed it. So I will conduct a roll call vote. And I'll ask for each of you by name. So it would be Peter,
yes,
Jeff,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Andy Dowd,
Yes.
Andy Clark,
Yes.
Sean Durkin,
Yes.
and John. That's me. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 members. I get everybody. So we have a vote 8 to 0 in favor of the motion. Thank you. And I, with Lori's help, will add detail to the bullets. We are giving an update. We've agreed we are going to be a little more specific in our update, which is completely consistent with last year and the prior year's presentations of the bond article. And we will, I will continue to express that it would fulfill major CPA goals, including the creation of affordable housing, which is badly needed. Affordable housing will come up again in Article 32. So it'll be a quick reinforcement of that notion. But we will not take it much further than that in terms of being accused of advocating when we agree we don't know all the information. Fair enough on that?
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we'll share the revised slides for any individual editorial comment as well. So, okay to move on to the rest of the slides because we can go through them pretty quickly.
Yep.
Very good. Article 31 is a layup. We always ask for the maximum 5%. And we reinforce that what it's used for, and we reinforce that if it's not spent, it goes back into the reserve. So it's not, it's never wasted. The next slide is, in fact, the Affordable Housing Reserve. We agreed as a committee to support the application for the minimum. And we did not add anything to that. We were not asked to, and we inferred through many of our conversations that night that keeping a maximum in the unreserved account was in our interest for flexibility. The next slide is the dog park. So this also should be easy to present, and there is generally great community support. There may be questions, and the one that I wanted to clarify through you, Lori, and I know I've written it down, but and it's in the application. We agreed to $347,500 from CPA funds. That does not finish the whole project, right? And the grants that
Correct.
the grants that you're going to apply for or have applied for, do we have commitments yet, or are those reimbursement grants? Can you just clarify?
Well, of course, they're waiting for this commitment. So we did receive the design grant from the Stanton Foundation for $25,700. And typically when they approve a design grant, they also approve a construction grant. However, they require a commitment from the town in order to submit the application to the Stanton Foundation. So this is key in order to access those funds. So the funds that I plan to apply for from the Stanton Foundation is approximately $225,000. So of course, the total cost of construction is still up in the air. It's based on an estimate. So we don't really know what the construction costs are going to be. So there might be more than that, they might be less than that. If they are more than that, then either we'll have to phase the project or we'll have to change the design to meet the amount of money that we have on hand.
The Stanton Foundation is, are these the only projects that they give grants to, dog parks, or what is their total purpose?
They also fund canines for police officers,
Hmm.
police departments.
Oh, that's good to know. So I'm thinking I would add a quick bullet. Bullet number 2 would be something to the effect of design grant already received from Stanton Foundation, 27.5, and that basically was as a result of last town meeting's approval, right?
Yes, yeah.
And then potential future grant of 225,000 to cover the additional construction costs. Would that be fair to say?
That is fair to say, yes.
So I would probably add that bullet, make those 2 bullets in the middle, and then obviously this is phase 2. Town already approved phase 1. The next slide is the blow up version of the map that you gave me, and I'm going to go back to the detail, and I'll just point out a couple of details. There may be people that want to know a little more about this when they see it at town meeting. It's easy to talk about the features of it, but there also may be objectors. Any advice on how to approach them or answer them?
Well, I think the most important thing to mention is that this has been a proposed project for 18 years. So the advocates of the dog park have been super, super patient. And I have heard that the Stanton Foundation is going to stop funding dog parks in 2025. So we would get right under the wire. So if we don't go forward at this point, that grant money may not be available in the future.
That's good. Urgency to approve then.
John, just tell them you're a cat person and you're in for this, you know?
I did actually, the first dog park project I was involved with, a gentleman who wrote the editorial for the local newspaper, asked me if I was going to make a cat park next. And if he decided that he wanted to bring the cat to the dog park, would that be okay? And of course, my response was that he could bring the cat if he wanted to, but I could not attest to the cat's safety.
What's a cat park but a big shelf with things to knock off or something like that? I don't know.
Pretty much.
I think it involves looking out the window quite a bit on those cat perches.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's funny. A quick aside, my son has a dog and also has a new son himself. So when my grandson comes to visit, usually the dog is in tow. And my cats, they have some kind of radar because they seem to know before they even get to the driveway that the dog is about to arrive, and they hide and you cannot find them for as long as they're here. And if my son shows up or my grandson shows up, they still hide because they're sure that Penny the dog must be close behind. So my cats would never make it out of the house to the dog park. But yeah,
John, John, just one quick comment from the Housing Authority.
yes.
We've talked quite a bit about the, the neighboring folks that live in the family housing that we have there. And I know there was a request at one point for like a double fencing to give them an added layer of an added barrier between. And we understand that may not be feasible within the project cost wise, but the Housing Authority has made at least a verbal commitment to potentially put up some fencing on our own at the side of that property that would give them some an added barrier. And so just wanted to make the committee aware of that.
Andy, in that regard too, Scott from DPW indicated he'd be willing to help on something offline or whatever if it impacted the project approval.
Sounds great.
Yeah, because that would be a terrible thing to lose the dog park over.
But
I
other than
agree.
that, Andy Dowd, other than that point, the Housing Authority has, it has no other objection to the use of the land for this. I know there had been talk in the past of building more
At this
housing,
point-
and there's still land available to do that, right?
Right. I think at this point, most of our concerns have been satisfied. There is, from the abutters perspective, I think it may be difficult to satisfy them 100%, but I think we're far enough there that everyone's comfortable at this point.
Thank you. So other than that, I don't expect any more discussion on it. Article 34 is the ADA trail at the senior center. And here again, the next slide is a full map, just to put it up and use it as a point of reference to show people what it is, reinforce what we're building. Now, in this case, well, again, Lori, from what you know, we're asking for 370,000. Will that finish the construction of the trail?
Of course, you never know. It really does depend on how the bids come in. And a lot of that is dependent upon Of course, the economy at the specific time that you go out to bid, how busy people are, as well as the time of year that you bid a project. So I've learned through experience that the best time to bid the projects are December, January timeframe. So ideally, that's what we'll be looking for. And then, start the construction as soon as possible in the spring.
Are there any other grants that we plan to apply for on this project at this time?
I know that Scott Charpentier submitted a small grant application. I want to say it was like $10,000 approximately to, I think it was AARP. So I don't believe he's heard from that grant application. We did decide not to apply for the Mass Trails grant this year because the timing just wasn't right. The design wasn't advanced enough. And also, when it's a single town project, it's not nearly as competitive than a multi-town project. So we opted not to apply for that one. Not aware of any other opportunities. There are grants available through Mass ADA, but they're virtually impossible to get.
I got you. So is it safe to say that this article, phase 2, we expect it to cover the construction costs, but also will pursue other grants where available, since that's what you just said?
Yes.
Something like that. Okay.
And if the money is, again, if the money isn't sufficient to pay for the project, then it will likely be phased.
Got it. Okay, and that leaves us with the last one was the library marker. I planned on putting in a picture of a previous marker that we've done as an example. I just forgot to do that. And I will speak to the contributions of Cyrus Gale. I don't expect much objection to that one. That being said, any other comments, questions on the town meeting presentations?
Only our usual thanks to you for doing that.
You're welcome. You've always, the rest of you have been afraid to do it, I think, so I just keep doing it.
Pretty much.
Well, for the record, I don't mean to hog it, and if at any point you want to go back to trying to divide up the articles, we can try it again, but I am comfortable presenting and taking any heat on Article 30.
You are very good at it.
Thank you. Okay, that being said, the only other business is approval of the minutes from February 2nd.
I'm gonna leave now. Thank you for inviting me, and good luck with everything.
Thanks for your input, Norm. Very helpful.
All right, take care. Have a good Easter.
You too. I already reviewed and gave some edits to Michelle. Specifically, I had notes the meeting opened at 7:10. The recorder was not on, but we put it on like 2 minutes later, so I'm confident that nothing significant was missed. And I added comments that I thought summarized our discussion around the Historic Society building window restoration. The first sentence was my words to summarize where I thought the committee came down. If there's any comment, objection, or further text on that, it's page 2, the 6th one down. Please speak up now. And absent any other comments, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
That
I will
was from-
second that motion.
Who was the motion from? I'm sorry.
Me.
Todd, thank you. Roll call vote, all in favor. Peter,
Yes,
Jeff,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Andy Dowd,
Yes.
Andy Clark. Actually, hold on. Andy Dowd, you weren't at the meeting.
Hmm.
That is correct. Technically, I can still vote, but it doesn't matter to me. I'll abstain.
Thank you, no problem. Andy Clark,
no longer with us.
and Sean was not at the meeting, so we have 6-0 in favor of the minutes approved.
There is.
Oh, no problem. So that's all I have, people. Anybody got anything else?
I just have one passing thought, John, if you got a second.
Sure, Sean.
Oftentimes, and it triggered me thinking of the White Cliffs. Oftentimes we approve something and then we either lose sight or don't get any follow-up. What springs to mind is the Brigham Street tree removal for the cemetery. I think that was approved a couple of years ago, but it doesn't look like anything's been done. I don't know if going forward, if when we kick around our discussions, can we ask successful applicants to at least give us periodic updates?
Yeah, it's a good idea. We have done that in some degree, and we probably should be doing that in the fall, at the start of our season.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
I just actually went down Brigham Street this weekend and it caught my eye.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's obvious that things are happening and sometimes it's not. We could easily get Scott to update us, and it's possible he's waiting for a contractor to bid it or other details, right?
Right. Like I said, just a passing thought, that's all.
Good thought.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Absent any other comments, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make the
Move.
motion.
Peter,
I'll
motion.
second it.
Todd, approved. All in favor, Peter,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Millie,
Aye.
Todd,
Yes.
Andy Dowd,
Yes.
Andy Clark,
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
I approve as well. Thank you all for making time again. We are adjourned.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
John.
Good night.
Be
Thank
well.
you.